everybody. It was time for me to make another educational, informational video on a setting that more and more people have started paying attention to. And I meant to make this video a couple months ago. Forgive me, I got distracted. I almost basically kind of forgot about it. But it's about the lift height setting. Now, I've seen people more recently talking a lot about lift speed, of course, and exposures, trying to get things really dialed in. And I don't really see people, I've seen a couple people talking about lifting height recently, and I've been one of them because, like I said, I wanted to make this video a few months ago. After I made the video on your FEP and the tension of the FEP and how the FEP peels and separates away from the print and the plate. So basically, I'll link that video to one of the things here. So as you're, especially on the initial layers and the print and the plate pull up, your FEP deforms, and the reason it can't be incredibly tight, it all peel at once, create a lot of suction force. When the FEP has some give, can move a little bit, as the plate goes up, the edges peel first, and the center part gets pulled up with the plate a little bit and separates less. So even though both things look flat to you, on a normal printer, as you go up, you're actually getting a gradual peel. And that's why those lower lift speeds help, because it makes the peel even more gradual. A fast lift speed, pulls it all at once also. So if your FEP is too tight, it creates a lot of suction. And also if your lift speed is too high, it creates a lot of suction. I think if people are getting the idea of that, because I do see, not just myself, but other people like Yesick and William Tatum out there saying, hey, if you're having trouble with pre-supported models, with thin, fine supports like I use, like they use, you should lower your lift speed. And especially on bigger models with bigger cross sections, lowering the lift speed helps. Lowering the lift speed also helps on a bigger, heavier print that you, even if you tilt, you can't avoid a big cross section. That lower lift speed helps you avoid getting those lines in your print. Which leads me to this video, because this video is about the way that FEP interacts with this lifting height, which again is something that most people don't talk about. And I think it's really important to start talking about lifting height now, because this next generation of printers, we know with the Photon Mono X, the EPAX X10, and they think have a couple other big versions. You've already got stuff out there like the Peopoly Phenom and the Phenom Noir. You've got Frozen coming out with an XL. So a lot of us are going to have much bigger printers soon. And lifting height actually becomes more of a factor even with the bigger printers, because those bigger printers, because of the increased size of the build plate and the resin vat, of course, now when that plate's coming out of this huge vat, you've got a lot more peel forces than when it's coming out of one of these smaller vats. So understanding the lifting height actually could help combat some problems that you could have on bigger printers. Also, even on smaller printers, I'm pretty sure that some of the fails I've seen from people posted on Facebook groups where I lurk, that some of them are because are due to lifting height issues. So what I'm going to do is let's conceptualize as the plate is coming out and the suction force are going, the FEP, which even when it's on kind of tight, it still has flex, you can see, right? So that FEP gets pulled up, like I said before, pulled up with the plate a little bit. It deforms, stretches up. So what is the lifting height in general? If you think about it, when the plate's pulling up from the FEP, the reason your lifting height isn't set at 1 millimeter, if the FEP comes up with it and the plate only moved up 1 millimeter and then went back down, it would never separate, right? Because the FEP is flexible, as we said, it moves up with the plate. So your lifting height, this is pretty simple to understand, your lifting height has to be greater than the amount that your FEP can deform. So people who have an FEP that's too loose, let's say, and deforms or is gotten stretched out and has too much flexibility, if your plate goes up and your FEP is still stuck to it at the max height the plate has moved, and then the plate tries to come back down and print another layer, what happens? You get a line in your print because the plate has never separated from the FEP, or if not the plate, the model, okay? So if the model is still stuck to the FEP at the height and then it comes back down, obviously you're at the very least going to get a line there. or you're going to get a fail if it sticks to the FEP instead of the plate when the plate finally does separate. So your lifting height has to be greater than the amount that your FEP deforms or gets pulled up due to the suction forces as the plate moves up. So you guys know I don't like to get too sciencey on my channel, so I'm trying to keep the definition as simple as possible we don't need to get into peel force equations or anything. It's just really simple. Think your FEP sticks to the plate, it deforms. Your plate has to go up high enough so the FEP comes free, goes back to its normal state. Your plate comes down to cure the next layer. So what really made me think about the lifting height, and I'll bring my wife in because I'm starting to bring my wife in to help me with these videos. Why not make it a little bit of a family affair? And just to give background, she's an engineer from basically the best engineering school in China. She's a brilliant mathematician, self-taught computer programmer who became a computer systems architect for a major company. I mean, the woman is extremely smart. Put it this way, she's most likely smarter than you and me. So she's going to come help me out with the demonstration though. And I'm going to show you what really, when I did this demonstration to myself 5 months ago is when I said, oh my God, I have to make this video. And then I kind of forgot about it. But here it is. And I think it's important for you to see the demonstration that we're about to do so you can understand this lifting height and why, if you're having certain kinds of fails, you might want to increase that lifting height. So stay tuned for a second. I'm going to bring my wife in. We're going to do this test and then we're going to talk about the results afterwards and what it means. Okay, so I'm back for the testing phase. So when I was thinking about this and how could I actually test this? It's not like I have a lot of engineering equipment, you know, or anything like that. And I'm not going to do computer simulations, right? So what I thought about was, let me print up I'm gonna zoom in on this stuff and zoom in on the testing so you can see. But what I did is I printed a 5mm high semicircle with not a high angle. The curve is low, so it takes up more space. And then I printed a 6mm, so 6mm tall, and it went flying. 6mm tall semicircle. This one at a much sharper angle, so it comes to more of a rounded point. So it's more extreme. It'll only hit a smaller point. So what I thought was, let me test my vats and see how they deform when pressed over something that's 5mm tall and something that's 6mm tall. What will that do to the FEP? Is it hard? Is it easy? Can it not be done? Is it done too easily? So with that, let me bring in my wife who's going to assist me with the testing phase here. And like I said, we're going to say hi. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in as well to show these tests. But first, and these 3 vats have all been used. This was from my Sonic Mini. This, I can't remember. I think maybe my E-Packs. I actually can't remember. But all 3 of these vats have been well used, printed perfectly. I know they're tensioned properly. So let's test on the big one. Yep. Gonna press it down. See, with very light pressure, it went over the 5mm, no problem. Let's try the next one. Okay, that one almost went around the 5mm with the edges of these down without being pressed, but it pressed down no problem. Okay, let's try the next one. Again, very mild pressure, and the FEP has deformed around this 5mm semicircle without a problem. Let's try the 6mm one, and this one's pointier. See, almost no pressure, and again, the FEP deforms 6mm without a problem. Let's try the next one. Again, barely any pressure, and the FEP deforms 6mm. Okay. And let's try the last one. And same thing, almost no pressure, and it can deform the 6mm. Okay, forget that. Let's put this near the edge of one just to try one closer to the edge of instead of the middle. Yeah. So there it requires a little more pressure because the edge doesn't have as much give as the middle, but it's still without a problem does the 5mm. Okay, I don't think we need any more testing. I think you can wave goodbye to our people. And what I'm going to do is we're going to zoom in and show those tests again because I know you couldn't really see what was happening. So I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to redo those so you can really see. But the point is, and let me move back. The point is the FEP can easily, without much pressure at all, deform 5 millimeters, deform 6 millimeters. The standard lifting height, right, that comes with almost every printer when it's built into, say, Chitterbox, is 5 millimeters. So you can see if your FEP, and these are not loose, if your FEP was loose a little bit and you had a big cross section, it would pull up to 5 millimeters, no problem. So I fear that a lot of people, when they're getting fails on prints or lines on print, their FEP for one or two of the layers may have never separated from the print itself. So new resin didn't pour in, new resin didn't get cured, and you get one of those horizontal lines in your prints. And that's why, because your FEP actually has the ability to deform up to 6 millimeters. This is 6 millimeters. 6 millimeters? Like, barely holding it down, it deforms 6 millimeters without a problem in the center. Now, when it gets to the edges, it's a little more pressure. So it's harder to do at the edges, 6 millimeters probably. But in the middle, no problem. So what I've been doing, and what I advise you all to do, even though it makes your prints take longer, I actually think if you're using 5 millimeters lifting height, for the bottom lifting height and the regular lifting height, I would go to 6 millimeters. That extra millimeter might stop you from having some fails, might stop you from having some lines in your prints. And in fact, when I'm doing a print, and I don't know if I do, like when I did the orc from my Kickstarter, when I printed double size for Brent from Goobertown. Hey Brent, hope you're watching. Brent is a fan of the orc, and I printed one at double size for him. At double size, there's a huge cross section in the middle. That cross section, the first time I tried to print it, I got a horizontal line in my print. And I realized the one thing I forgot to do, which I normally do on a big, thick print like that, I normally increase my lifting height to 7 millimeters, sometimes even 8 millimeters to be safe. And the reason I'm making this video now, why it reoccurred to me with all the big printers coming out, well, on a big printer, the FEP can deform even more easily and has more give. So if you look, I think the base on my Peopoli Phenom, I think the base lifting height was set at 7 or even 8 millimeters. Okay, so that's the manufacturer acknowledging, hey, your FEP is going to deform a lot more because it's got a bigger surface area and a little more give. It's going to stretch more. So I now think that we should all be using at least 6 millimeters on bottom lift height and lifting height. When you get to the bigger printers, which are coming, I don't know what the manufacturers are going to recommend on those yet, like the Saturn and stuff like that. But I'm going to go like a minimum of 7 millimeters, probably 8 millimeters. And if I have a big, thick print that, on a bigger printer that's taking up a lot of the print bed and going to create really big peel forces, big suction, I'm probably going to go to 9, maybe even 10 millimeters to be safe. So lifting height is something that's often ignored by people in our community. But as you can see from the tests I did, and again, I'm going to zoom in and redo them after I'm done talking so you can really see what I'm talking about. I think adjusting your lifting height is actually important to making sure you have less fails and no lines in your prints, especially on bigger, heavier prints. So all you people out there watching, if you do have lines on your prints, it could be that your lifting height is not high enough. Also, you want your lift speed slow. And if you have a slow lift speed and your lifting height is high enough and you're still getting lines, then you probably need to add just some supports in that area to stabilize the model even further. But anyway, with these big printers coming out, please pay attention to your lifting heights. Lift speed is always important. We all want to print fast, and with this faster generation of printers coming out, these monoscreen printers, they do print faster. So if we lose a little bit of time back by being safe and using a lower lift speed and a higher lifting height, my aim as always is to get you guys less fails, more perfect prints. So if that comes at the expense of a little more time printing, I personally think it's worth it. And I have been doing it on my prints. I've across the board with every printer now, I won't use less than a 6 millimeter lifting height. And like I said, even on my small printers, when I do a thicker print, I'm going to 7 millimeters just to make sure I don't have those issues. So that's it. I hope this video was instructional. Again, stay tuned for like literally just 1 minute. I'm going to zoom in and do these tests so you can see how the FEP deforms really easily around my test height deformer things. And then that'll be it for the video. So I'll say it now. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Hope I helped you in some way. Please, I have a link for my Kickstarter. Please sign up to be pre-notified. My Kickstarter is going to be awesome. I don't want to really do an ad for it now, so forget that. More importantly, stay tuned and watch these tests. You can really see how these FEPs deform. And happy 3D printing. Okay, so we're going to redo these tests again that my wife did. This time I'm going to do them. So just laying the vat on, it's almost flat already. You can see the FEP looks fine. If I touch down very lightly, it has now deformed the full 5 millimeters without any problem at all. And this is a normal tensioned FEP. Next one. I lay it on, it's almost flat already. Very mild pressure. See? And I'll slam it down so you can see it's really all the way down. The FEP deforms to the 5 millimeters without any issue at all. And a third example. And again, if I just press down lightly, and look, now I'll press down hard to prove that this is flat on the table. I'll do it fast. This FEP is fine. In fact, it still has some give. As I press in, you can see there's still plenty of give. I can press the FEP back down to the table around this. So that shows you how easy it is to deform the FEP to 5 millimeters. So what that tells me is, with a lot of suction force, that FEP is not going to separate from the build plate or the model if it's only 5 millimeters lifting height. So that's why I've been bumping up my lifting height, and even 6 millimeters. So here's 6 millimeters. 6 millimeters, no problem, right? 6 millimeters, no problem. And 6 millimeters, also no problem. Now, if I do that at the edge, it's harder. See there, if I do the 6 millimeters, the edge can't deform as much as the middle. And there, it actually even leaves a little kind of like dent in the FEP because it got stretched a little too much there. So 6 millimeters at the edges, you'll definitely be pulling off, because I think it's pretty hard to make the edge of the FEP deform 6 millimeters. See, it leaves a little indent on all of these if I go right to the edge, because the edge has very little play. 6 millimeters is a lot, so it gives me a little bubble. But again, in the center, 6 millimeters is nothing. It doesn't affect the FEP at all. So that's why on my bigger, thicker prints, instead of 6, I actually go up to 7 when I'm doing something a little bigger and thicker like this, especially when I doubled the size of this. I want to make sure that my build plate actually separated from the FEP with each layer. So I went to 7 millimeters just to make sure that it would come out right. So anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks.